Good morning again. And we ask ourselves, why should I purify my intentions? And the whole purpose is so that we can love God more. And we can be like that disciple who heard that he was going to be free in 200 lifetimes and felt bliss anyway. The thing was, that disciple was feeling bliss already. And so when you are feeling a higher state of consciousness, then the timing of it all doesn't matter at all. And also we all know that it's only 25% our effort and the rest is God and Guru. Although our effort is 100% of our effort. So these intentions, though, if you have all these negative intentions and you don't act on them, well, that's a great first step, and it's very important in some circumstances to really basically not act on intentions. A lot of people in classes will say, I get so angry, and so it makes me a bad yogi. And there's something called healthy shame and unhealthy shame. Healthy shame says, I did something wrong, I better make it right with the other person. I better correct what I did. Unhealthy shame is when you say, I'm such a bad person, oh, I did it again, oh, that kind of a thing. And so, of course, just apologizing is not necessarily enough, but it's a start. And when you apologize and change your behavior, then you have actually begun the healing process between yourself and another person. I think everybody, all of us, have this anger issue. And anger, Master said, and Swamiji talked about it, is wanting things to be other than they are. And we'll often say, if we know of someone who's angry or see an angry person, we'll say they want what they want. Think about the last time you were angry. I just wanted what I wanted. Whether that's you want your kids to behave a certain way, or you wish that something else happened at work, all that kind of thing. And what we don't realize is as soon as we express our anger, it's like knives are coming out of our mouth. If you think about it, think if we were all astral bodies floating around, which we are actually, we have our astral bodies. When there's that anger habit, and it is a habit, then and the more we indulge it, the more we justify it. And so when that anger habit happens, then we burn bridges with other people. With those scissors and knives and daggers that we're throwing at other people, Master said, people are the bane of our existence, basically, because they will use their words to just ruin a day. How often does that happen to us? And then we think, well, I can do it too. And, if someone's going to do it to me, I'm going to do it too. And, people think they need the power behind anger to change a situation. But people misbehave, and I have to use my anger to make them change. But I remember growing up, my father, he was a very angry person all the time. And I remember thinking, as a young kid, can't we just have a discussion? Let's just discuss it. Of course, I never really said that out loud, but I remember it was like a mantra I had as a child, like, let's just discuss it. And, if we instead of going into that anger to change a situation, whether it's with a child or a friend or a coworker or whatever, family member of some sort, instead of doing that, if you first try to gather whatever that anger was and keep it inside and meditate just briefly, or just walk out of the room when you feel like the little kid that came running to Dharmarajan and said, I'm going to do it, So that's what we are. We're that little kid saying, I'm about to do it, I know it. And usually as Kriya yogis or meditators, we have a little more self-awareness to know that that emotion is rumbling up. And so it's important when as soon as we feel that emotion rumbling up, then we take responsibility for that emotion. We don't blame others for that emotion. Instead, we take responsibility for it and we do the right thing, right action. We do what's dharmic. First of all, everyone has it. So it's not like, oh, I'm such a bad person because I'm the one with anger here. It's everybody gets it, and everybody's at different stages of being able to control it. And over time, you can even begin to let go of that desire that makes you feel, I want what I want, and things are happening differently than I want. And instead, you can take kind of a higher perspective and say, oh, this is really not going the way I want at all. Let me meditate on what I could say, using my words, in a positive sense, that can help change the situation. And you learn you don't need the power of anger to really make it work, Instead, when you do that anger thing, you are sending a knife through that person's heart and your own heart. You realize you are hurting yourself every time you send out a knife. And you can kind of be up in the clouds and say, yes, we are all one. And so when I hurt someone else, I'm actually hurting myself. It's even more practical than that. As soon as you send that knife, what does our heart feel like? Completely shut, completely closed, And how does that do for us being able to feel the presence of God inside? And not only that, when we do a wrong action and we send that knife, we feel ashamed of ourselves. And we feel so bad that we did it, and it closes the heart even more. And we find ourselves just shrinking because we express the anger in such a way. Master said it's violent to behave that way. And so we want to learn how to identify it and first not act. First, we know what the intention is, but not do the deed. And so I'm only mentioning all of this because we all have to deal with this, and we all may have experienced relationships that we've ruined because of our behavior. Or who's the person that's in the family that's angry all the time? People are a little afraid of them. They're like, hi, good to see you. And kind of tippy-toe around the person, trying not to make them angry, And that person knows. My father knew we were all tippy-toeing around him, and it made him angrier. Because he just wanted love. And didn't know how to get out of that struggle that he had inside. And so the person does just want love, but it takes a very high-minded soul to see that and actually give the love despite the person being this way. Love can change many things, but that person as a yogi has to first take responsibility and apologize. And that takes humility, doesn't it? Because you think if I apologize, then they're going to think I'm weak. you know. And maybe you don't do it at work. Maybe you just change your behavior and they say, oh, he's doing much better now. You know, I don't feel I have to tippy-toe around that person. And then maybe they do some kind actions or whatever. But when it's the intimacy of a family, you know, you're going to be ostracized. You're going to be labeled as the angry person, that we need to stay a little bit farther away. And you know it's happening when suddenly, even though you're invited to something, people are a little more reserved and you're not getting the love you want. And that's the other anger part we have, is when people are in relationships, they want love from each other. And there's like a rule. I give you love and you give me love back. Okay. That's what happens. We have an agreement here. Give me that love. When we learn to love with God's love, it becomes a little less attached. It does not mean we are suddenly, like I said, in the clouds and I love everyone, you know, that kind of a thing. It's very practical. Master was so practical. Swamiji taught us so many practical things. It is a challenge to love. It's a challenge. And that love to for instance, it can start with a little child. You're used to just saying, stop it! You know, you're driving me crazy. But if instead, in Ananda Education for Life, the teachers learn to do what's called redirecting energy. And you can do this with children, and you can do it with yourself. And so when a little child is being really energetic and running around the room or whatever, rather than sit down and sit still, you give them something to do with that energy. You know, and so in Education for Life, the teacher learns to recognize that, and then suddenly you're redirecting the energy. The little child gets to, you know, kind of work through the energy and learn that they don't have to be punished for having high energy. High energy is great. We all want to have high energy. And high energy brings us to the divine. And so learning how to work with a child, suddenly we learn how to work with ourselves. Like, I have all this anger, what do I do? Oh, I'll take a run. I'll go running. I'll, you know, even if in my running, my thoughts versus deeds are that I am not doing what I wanted to do, but I'm running it off. You know, I'm doing something with the energy. I'm not just repressing it. And sometimes people will think, well, if I'm angry and I need to express it. Well, you don't. Instead, you can use that anger to change something. You know, not in other people necessarily, but apply it to a creative project that you've had, or just, you know, put it in a pillow, or whatever you want to do. It's just energy. So everything we have, it's just energy. So that negative, angry energy can be transmuted, can be transformed into some other thing if we just remove ourselves from the situation we're in that made us angry. Of course, nothing makes us angry. Anger lives inside. And the more we meditate and learn how to deal with that anger, the more it dissipates. The less we have to rely on it to make changes in our life. Instead, we learn to have a healthier energy and learn to use our words, just like Education for Life teaches the kids. Learn to use your words. You know, learn to say, that made me feel very uncomfortable, rather than, yeah, you know, that kind of a thing. And so we use our words as yogis, especially because we care about having our heart open. We want our heart open at all times. If I'm walking around and I'm like feeling kind of a squeeze in my heart, I'm like, what happened? What's going on? Why am I feeling that way? And I identify, oh yeah, that weird interaction with that person kind of created some emotion in my heart, and I'll meditate and try and, transform that emotion into something else, and do whatever I can to reopen my heart. Because as soon as the heart is open and we're meditating, we feel so much joy during the meditation. But when the heart is just like this, and it's either because of our behavior or someone else's behavior, but we had a reaction, then we have that heart open. I just love the story of that devotee who took Master's words so beautifully. Just, did you hear? I have how many? 200 lives before I find God, but it means I'm finding God. It's a guarantee. Wow. And wouldn't we love to be like that? We don't want to just say, I am that way. I'm a yogi, and therefore I must have all the correct attitudes, and therefore I do. That's what Master and Swamiji mean by working with where we are. You say, okay, I still have anger. That thing happened, and that showed me I still have it. What can I do to keep working on it? Or, that thing happened, and it shows I'm really attached to that kind of someone being a certain way with me. How can I learn to just give love no matter what? And because it helps me, because it helps my own heart, it helps me. Now, when we're reacting to someone else who's angry all the time, it doesn't. Master said, if someone misbehaves towards him in probably a violent way, because he had a huge heart, he would say, you put your hand out to shake their hand, and then they do it again, and you still put your hand out to shake their hand. And then the third time, you just keep your hand in your pocket. And so he was telling us, okay, it's okay to have distance. It's okay to create that distance so you're not repeatedly being the brunt of someone else's energy in that way. It's okay. But he just said you're putting your hand in your pocket. You're not going, I don't like you either. That kind of, there's the deed versus intention back. I remember there was a joke in my family that I think my dad would yell at someone, and then I think this is a common joke. The father would yell at someone, and then that person would then yell at the younger child, because we had 4 sisters. So then that sister would yell at that sister. Then that sister would yell at that sister, and the youngest would kick the dog. Whoops. Sorry, I kicked the microphone stand. And you see how it spreads, when people don't have self-control and not realizing how unhappy it just makes them feel. So it's just such a good topic to be aware of, a good topic. And again, the healthy shame is just, oops, I made a mistake, I better apologize and try and fix what I almost destroyed. But also, and change my behavior. And then you move on because you're working on changing it. But if it keeps happening and it's repeated and everything, you've done destructive things, but you're not doing anything to help it. Notice how when you're a yogi, you don't say, I'm a yogi and therefore none of that exists for me. I don't have to look at it or anything. Instead, you're more vigilant with yourself and your behavior and all that kind of stuff. But you're not saying, I'm a bad yogi, or I'm not a yogi because I behave that way, or, a yogi would have been this way, or you better see me in a good way, so I'm going to pretend I never do any of that and pretend that I'm, actually really great, as as he was saying. And so instead, a yogi says, what is? Here I am. I know I want to love God. I know I'm doing the best that I can. The biggest compliment Swamiji would give people is that person is sincere. So even if they misbehaved or whatever, they're sincere in their heart. He could really see people's hearts. Sincere, really wanting to improve, really wanting to meditate, really wanting to love God like an aspiration. As Dharmarajan was saying, our aspirations can be what define us. I'm not just some angry person and I'm bad. Instead, I know I want the divine. And of course, there's things I need to work on. And just being sincere, you think, no, I want him to see me as advanced. I want him to see me as, the great yogi that I hope I am. And, but Master said, if you're in this room and you want Kriya Yoga, you have very, 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 very good karma. So what does a person look like with very, 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 very good karma? Like us, all of us. That's what a person with very, 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 very good karma is. It doesn't mean we're not working through cycles of bad karma that come to us, but this is what it is. Human beings. Human beings. Sri Yukteswar said, if we were greater than we were, we would not be gracing the earth with our presence. That the earth is where we are like we are, working it out. And okay, so maybe we'll graduate and live on Venus and be 30 feet high and made of half fire. And, that's another body that we may have someday. And if you think about it, I remember when I was disappointed, freedom means, freedom does mean that you go back and merge with the divine, but also you just graduate to another form as well. That can be freedom from earth. You graduate into a different form on a different planet. Sri Yukteswarji talked about Haranya Loka in Autobiography of a Yogi, and we graduate somewhere. So it's all mysterious, really. We really don't know what that means. But I remember thinking, but I thought you just merge in with God. And it's like, well, you actually graduate from earth and you go on to greener pastures. And as long as you graduate, and God lets you if you're allowed to graduate. Otherwise, we know the pastures very well. We get that there's a movie where people are together and then they die, and then they come into another life, and the guy who's supposed to give the forget shot for that lifetime forgets to give the forget shot. And so then the person keeps having past life memories of everyone. And so obviously we know there's not someone who forgets to give the forget shot. We often get to have that forget shot. We may have little visions of things that might have happened before. But usually when we have those visions, we think, oh, I was such a bad person. I must deserve this bad karma that I have. And I have to, I'm suffering because I deserve this bad stuff happening. No, we really don't know. We think we know, but we don't know. So we should approach this life like, okay, this bad thing's happening to me to strengthen me. Not because I deserve it, not because I must have done something bad and so now it's happening to me. Instead, okay, this thing is coming to me. We don't know how many lifetimes that same thing has been coming to us, and each time we kind of miss the mark. But in this lifetime, we have the opportunity to get stronger and to open our heart more often to allow the divine to come in. And Kriya, its whole purpose is to create a fire that goes up our astral body that all our little karmic seeds pop into over time, the ones that don't have to manifest on the earth. And so the little karmic seeds hop in with each of the Kriya cycles that we do. If you don't have Kriya, we highly recommend it. And so what a blessing we have that, to not have to reincarnate over and over and over again if we can really dedicate ourselves to Kriya Yoga in that way. Master said, all those who are practicing Kriya Yoga should aim to become Jivan Muktas. So a Jivan Mukta has karma to work through, but is not creating new karma. Don't we all want to be that way? What does creating new karma, not creating it? Well, we saw it in Swamiji, who was a Jivan Mukta. We saw this man who was just full of integrity and yet had tons of karma come to him, that he was just burning up. People being crazy and all these health issues, continuous